Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Shall we go for it?
Let's go for it.
Dave Wood, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, brother?
Absolute pleasure to be here, Peter. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, it's lovely to have you.
Really.
We're sort of here doing like a setup, aren't we? So we're here as part of the directing staff stuff for it. I always feel incredibly out of my depth because I always say to people, I'm one of the, in the sort of group of Avengers that I'm out here with, I'm like the least skilled person. But that's why I love it so much, because I'm constantly drinking it in. And even when I just go for a tour of one of the sites or just simple things, like I was out there with Nige today and we were just, sort of building in some walls and around some of the sites that some of the people are going to do next week, breaking and breaching and things they're going to be doing there. There's such a wealth of knowledge of people that we've got here, and it's why I wanted to sort of corner you and ask you a million questions about how you found yourself here, really.
It's always a pleasure. It's an interesting one to open up with, that Peter, and quite an interesting one for me, because currently the dynamic of UK ISO is we've got this lovely cross-section of the seasoned old professionals, the salty old sea dogs like myself, who are now sort of moving towards the end of their career, and the new guys, have you alluded to yourself, like yourself, and many others, and it's really interesting moving into the IER in 2023, which is our assessment process.
I was going to say, what is the IER for any people that don't know what it is?
They do it every 5 years. Pete, our last one was in 2016 in Germany, and highlight of the UK ISO.
What did you have to do for that one?
It works off a thing called the IER checklist, Pete, and what happens is basically the team from the UK will deploy abroad, and that will give the team the opportunity to test things such as the transport facilities, the haulage mechanism, the chartering of aircraft and things like that. Getting the team from A to B, but not just A to B as we would know it. It's moving the team from the UK, and on this particular occasion to Germany. At which point we would undergo a series of assessments and tests, things that you touched on already, the USAR capabilities or ISAR capabilities. There is a very interesting migration between USAR and ISAR, which I'll talk about in more detail.
I don't even fully understand it, and I've been in ISAR for a little bit now, to be honest. Although the people that are really good at USAR tell me it is quite different, and they sometimes struggle, don't they? Some USAR technicians make incredible ISAR technicians, but it's not necessarily an immediate crossover, is it?
It's absolutely not. There's a real distinction, not in terms of the actual skills that we do, things such as shoring, so that's using timber and metal to make buildings, stabilise buildings, if you will. Technical search, so acoustic listening devices, all this sort of thing. There's no difference there between USAR and ISAR. There is, however, a difference in between an USAR technician and an ISAR technician, and that is something that is tested in terms of the ISAR selection. I know me and you were at DS on the recent ISAR selection up in Cumbria.
Loved that.
You enjoyed it, did you?
Yeah.
Enjoyed the rain?
I was going to say, the difference in the weather between there, and even, to be fair, when we came here for a recent cold weather one, yes. This place is incredible, because even now we're looking across, and I don't know how far they are from the distance, but the snowy mountains in the distance. And what is it today? 26, 27 degrees? I don't know what it is.
It's
crazy warm.
It's absolutely crazy. And you talk about the different temperatures and things like this. Well, that's one of the elements that you may be tested on through your ISAR selection.
People think when they think of ISAR, it's always such a strange thing, because even when we do it in the UK, the selection side of stuff, you're still only really a stone's throw away from your service and from your families. It's hard to simulate things like when people get the opportunity to come here. And I know, and I've written down a few because I wanted just to get onto some of the deployments that you've been part of. Yeah, sure. But I apologise, I've jumped off in a different direction. Tell me about Germany again. So what was tested? Did they do a heavy deployment for a full IER?
Yeah, that is a heavy deployment. That's what UK ISAR deployed as on that particular occasion. So just to close the circle, and thanks for bringing me back to that. I appreciate that. So you were landing country, and the whole thing will continue from that point. So the skills that I touched on before, the USAR skills that I touched on before, would be tested, and it's other things as well. It's things like the medical skills within the team, which again I'll talk about in greater detail.
That's really expanded, hasn't it? And it's almost changed directions recently. And I know I'll probably be corrected at some point, which is always great, because we moved into doing a lot of the medical trauma support. Obviously, when we had people entrapped, if there was services down in country, we would also facilitate in that aid aspect. And then we built quite a capacity and a real skill set in having, and correct me, doctors and stuff in the team. But now we've seen the rise of things like UK Med or UK EMT. What's it called?
So yeah, we got the EMT, which is well, it grew out of a combination of UK ISI and UK Med.
Yes.
And a generalised description of what the EMT team is. This is a team, as I said, made primarily of international search and rescue technicians who will also offer the services, for example, to deploy to a country in need and facilitate the construction and establishment of a field hospital. And once that field hospital is established, they would then stay in situ for any period of time, be it 3, 6, 9 months, obviously rotating the crew around as well. And just generally assist the doctors and the surgeons and the medical people that work within that field hospital. So we're doing all the bits around the field hospital, things like sanitation and water purification and things like that.
That was an interesting thing when I was sitting down with Russ Godin recently, who's obviously the head of UKISAR at the minute, and they were looking, I forget what the scenario was, not even a scenario, it was a genuine deployment of some form, and the one of which escapes me because there's been various during the COVID pandemic. For anybody that's unsure, you can go on the what's the disaster page thing? I've got it on my phone.
Well, you've got GDAX.
GDAX.
You've got GDAX, yeah.
Yeah, where global disaster something.
Coordination system.
Yeah, so effectively you can go on and see. I think that's accessible to the public as well, isn't it? Is that one accessible to the public? Or is there a different one?
No, GDAX is accessible to the public. It's a great tool, Peter, for UKISAR. It will give us a lead into an early indication, an early warning sign of a happening disaster. So, for example, if an earthquake was to happen on a particular time in a particular place, we would have instant recognition of that, and we would have that information coming to us via the GDAX website. And so it works on a traffic light system, red, amber, green. So if a red earthquake alert was to come through, we would pretty much know, experience would tell us, do you know what, something might be happening here, and it's probably time to start packing that toothbrush and getting that kit together.
When I used to watch it, I don't really watch the news anymore, but when I used to watch it, it really gave me an insight into how little really gets reported as well. Not saying like they're keeping things from us, and I know there's news all over the world, but you can't report on everything, but when you look on there, stuff is happening like every day. You know, there's a flood or there's a famine or there's...
It really is.
It is happening all the time. We really do live in our unconscious bubbles, don't we, at times?
It's incredible, and that really does open up a whole other debate. I mean, you could talk about the politics.
Yeah. Because that's also something where, like, and I don't know how it works, but with certain dynamics, sometimes... And we're going down a rabbit hole here, we'll pull back out in a minute, but like sometimes you have to wait till aid is requested, or sometimes if you do it through, I mean, we've had Sebastian Rhodes Stamper, part of, I'm going to forget now. Insurag, thank you very much. And also UK OCHA, OCHA, wasn't it? And he was saying about, depending on which route through you take and how the request or whatever, and that's the political thing that I don't fully appreciate, but that's all I can see is when you see the boots on the ground and people like ISAR, they want to go, they see a need, they're prepared and ready. But you said an interesting thing about the med thing, which I don't want to skip over, and there's a uniqueness, because when they were doing those comparisons, it was like lots of other organisations, and there's lots of aid and charitable organisations out there who say like, well, we've got skill set, we can give aid. And you're like, well, yeah, well, everybody can give aid with the greatest respect. You know, anyone's got a first aid certificate can give aid. But it's the other training that comes as quite a unique thing from A, firefighters in general, and B, ISAR individuals. Because A, firefighters had all them wide range of characteristic skills, but then you also get all that safety and security training. You always get all of this.
It's a lovely question to open up, and this is not being disrespectful to non-government organisations whatsoever. You're quite right, just to sort of appreciate and encapsulate the sort of extra skills that we do. I mean, I've always thought about UKISAR as an extension to the Fire and Rescue Service within the UK. Fundamentally, I know it's a cliche, but it's actually true. You're dealing with a group of people, all very eccentric and very different in their own ways. But fundamentally, to the core, these are people who want to help people, and to get the opportunity to do that through the deployment of a humanitarian disaster is an absolute privilege.
I wanted to ask you, when you first sort of got started, rewind us all the way back. When did you first join the fire service? Because you've been in for a very long time now.
I have.
Your handsomeness is deceiving. You're not 21 as you may appear.
Those dog years, some might say. Joined in 1992, Peter.
92?
Yes.
How old would you have been then?
I was 25 years of age.
So what did you do before it?
I actually worked. I always liked practical stuff. I'm never for 1 minute going to sit down here and tell you I'm an academic or an intellectual. But my field of strength, if you like, is in practical ability, building sites, this construction, that sort of thing. Has it helped me in my job? It certainly has. Has it helped me with UKI? So absolutely, because I've been lucky enough that those skills have been so transferable into the world that we now sort of operate in. And I'm sure you'll appreciate that's exactly what me and you have been doing today. So working out in that sun, doing very simplistic but very essential construction work in preparation for the site.
Yeah. And there's so many like subconscious things that is very hard to train retrospectively when we look at, if we just zoom out to just fire service in general now. I mean, my dad ran a building firm for 40 years, and he was a Cub Scout leader when I was first born, and like they had scouts stand up outside the church when me and Mum got married and all that sort of stuff. And without knowing it, so much of that rubs off on you. Do you know what I mean? From the knots and lines when you were a kid to the going camping to we would make sandcastles. He'd have proper spades and shovels and mattocks and all this sort of stuff. We'd be building something you could live in.
It's great, isn't it? I think it's absolutely inherent in your foundation years that those skills are transferred sort of subliminally and go into your unconscious without even realising it, and become part of your character. And that, I think, in essence, I know I touched on that old cliche about helping people, but just sort of that ability to migrate those practical skills that you're talking about there with your dad are transferable skills and do hold us in good stead and strength when we do the job that we're doing today.
What did your parents do? Did you have any family in the services?
Strangely enough, no. I've always been a bit of an oddity, so I did decide to go off and do my own thing. No. My mum and dad both worked in a factory. They were good. They are good, honest, working people. It's just that I felt I wanted to do something a little bit different.
Yeah,
but they certainly brought me up the right way.
I didn't sort of take over my dad's business, and it was something around like when I wasn't great at school. I was smart enough for school, but I was just a pest. And I'm probably still the same now. But whenever I would get suspended from school or whatever, I used to have to go and work with my dad, because he'd be like, "Well, you're not sitting around at home. You're going to come to work." So I unconsciously built a bit of like, that was a punishment. I had to go and fill skips and go and just do lackey work. Do you know what I mean? Rubbish work. I didn't get to go and put the roof tiles on. I didn't get to go and plaster inside. I've been mixing all the mixes and all that sort of jazz. So it kind of created this thing where I didn't want to do it, and then I just gravitated around people at my on-call station and just sort of fell into that in the same capacity.
You make a really interesting point in terms of you were competent at school, but you perhaps got yourself in bits of trouble. And I think that's stereotypical to a certain degree, to a certain point of your firefighter. And I'm sure you know yourself, you've been around long enough to know we are a certain breed, if you like, a certain type of character. And it's quite interesting I've spoken to a number of people in terms of talked about their education, and they seem to have this expansive mind, this curiosity that perhaps your standard classroom, and again, no disrespect to the education system, couldn't hold. And it's quite interesting. Once again, we talked about those transferable skills, perhaps not just transferable skills, but personality traits as well draws towards this type of
well, you need to be a bit of a possibly you've got to have confidence first and foremost, but also you've got to be the sort of person that doesn't just see one way of doing it. In school there's a lot of right and wrong, which is great, and certainly with maths there is only one right answer, but our idea is you've got to find different answers for a problem. Thanks for coming back and listening to the Firefighters Podcast. This one was brought to you by William Wood Watches. William Wood Watches, as I'm sure you're already aware, are the makers of those incredibly authentic watches with a piece of firefighting history in every single one. On the 9th of June, they created 250 beautiful limited edition pieces of the bravest watch for the FDNY Foundation. They're donating 15% from every single watch to the FDNY Foundation, and it's pretty incredible to see that William Wood Watches are now in the Rockefeller Center, the FDNY Fire Zone store that's held within Rockefeller Center on the 9th
9th of June, they will be having one of their watches, which is going to press William Wood watches into the history of FDNY. Johnny and the team are over there kicking ass and taking names. Be sure to join them on their journey. Head over to williamwoodwatches.com. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out on YouTube. You can check all of their watches right there, from the Jubilee to the Triumph to the Valium to the Bronze to the Chivalrous, and they run competitions supporting firefighters charities all over the world, including the firefighters charity in the UK.
You know, we'll turn up to a problem, we turn up. ISAR is a great example, fire service is great, even police and military and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Possibly more in the police and the fire service.
Yeah.
I would like to think, with the greatest respect to ambulance, some of that is maybe a bit more straightforward, although the human body has a billion variations, I'm sure. But you turn up with certain tools that none of it completely fits every single time. But you've got to mackle it together, and I say that with the greatest respect, to come up with a safe solution.
It's a great comment and a very interesting one. And I think that's why we turn up en masse to answers that we've not got the answer as an individual on that particular occasion. You can be pretty sure somebody else on the unit or watch actually 100%. Has, and it's safety in numbers, isn't it?
Did you ever do on call, or were you straight into your whole time?
No, I came straight into the whole time. Worked with the on call. For many years, but it was always my ambition from an early age to, again, not disrespecting on-call units, I think they do. And in fact, that's another really interesting point. For me, the characters, the personalities, the individuals that you get within the on-call unit are sometimes even more surmountable than the guys we get in the whole time. We have the opportunity to do our job day in, day out. We turn up for work and the opportunities will present themselves. The guys who are coming in, who have different occupations, and with the greatest respect, the on-call is the second job. To maintain that amount of interest and the way they turn up, the commitment that they give, the backup that they give to us, knowing that there'll be limited opportunities, the one that we receive day in, day out. I think this is a great opportunity just to give them some plaudits.
100%. I think I have developed a much wider knowledge base due to having been on call I did it for about a decade, well, a little over 11 years. And you work with people who are actually sector specialists in something else. Yes. Even if they do whatever, run a butcher. I mean, there was people on my watch, on my on-call watch, that had like £1 million businesses. You know, they just did it because they had operated in an office environment for so long. They wanted something. They were maybe in their 40s, 50s, a later stage of their life, and wanted to get some of that back, or something they never did as a kid because they were trying so hard to run their business or grow their business. Yeah. And now they want it. It's like their second shot at it, and they've got such a wealth of knowledge. Or even people that are like an engineer or a mechanic, or they're a builder, or they're work at the wherever it may be, the butcher's, the local factory. Yeah. You go up to some incidents, and that person knows all about it. We're like skin deep on a lot of things, and they know a lot about very specific things.
I can move that across to the whole time as well, and I think it's fair to say, you may or may not agree, it's just something that I've observed in my time within the fire service in UK ISAR. We have a wealth of knowledge right across a very, very broad spectrum, covering everything from, as you touched on, their mechanical skills to plumbing skills, everything that migrates into any type of incident that we may attend, even as UK ISAR. Yeah. And I sort of sometimes think it's an untapped wealth of knowledge.
It really is, isn't it?
And again, I think you might be touching in on leadership shortly. Yeah. And one of the things I've sort of learned in my time as an officer within both the fire service and UK ISAR is you learn so much from good officers, you learn so much more from the not so good officers. And one of those traits in the not so good officers is not to tap in to the wealth of knowledge that sits next to them. Yeah. Why would you not do it?
Today's episode is supported by our good friends over at Duty Crew Coffee. Now, as you're probably aware, coffee is the most popular drink worldwide, with over 2.25 billion cups of coffee consumed every single day, and over 70 million of those in the UK alone. Most of this is consumed in our crew rooms, our watch offices, and by our emergency services frontline staff. So when you're getting together around the mess table, don't be drinking no nasty ass cheap coffee. Nobody likes that guy that brings the cheap stuff. Life is too short to be drinking crap coffee. So if you head on over to dutycrew.co.uk or click the link in the podcast below, you'll be able to jump on over and see the Duty Crew coffee products. They come in 227 gram oversized high quality recyclable standard pouches, and they are individually wrapped 10 gram coffee bags. They're quick, mess free, convenient. They have a one-way degassing valve, which is an absolute must for storage of freshly roasted coffee. You can get the 20-pack response bag. They've got the HQ, they've got the No Duff, they've got the Unity, the Decaf, and of course all of their products are Rainforest Alliance certified, Fair Trade Foundation, and most importantly, they taste freaking epic. I started drinking Duty Crew Crew about 2 months ago. And then when I fell in love with it, I got in contact with them and they came on board with the podcast. So jump on over to Duty Crew Coffee if you want some of the good stuff. Now back to the podcast.
So you joined in 92. What was basic training like back then? Was it 8, 10, 12, 14-week residential at home?
It wasn't at home, Pete. No, we went to training centre within the county that I've worked for. It was a 15-week course, and you lived on camp.
15 weeks.
It was 15.
Getting shorter now, I think.
What is that, firefighters or the actual course? I don't know.
Both, I think.
I think you're quite right.
I think it needs to get longer because some of the things we spoke about like those assumed characteristics, like people came in with a background, like I had like some crap jobs when I was a kid, where people would wag the finger in my face or I'd have to do a rubbish thing. Yeah. If we don't have that, now we have people coming in at 20, 25, 30, and they don't know certain things, not because they're not interested, not because they don't care, like some people think, just because they haven't had that background. It's
an incredibly interesting topic, open question to open up to me, and it's not their fault. No. I'll just close the circle on the previous question that you asked me there. It comprised mainly, in the majority, 10, 11, 12 weeks of basic skills, and then going on to a breathing apparatus course. And from that point onward, I was then posted to my first station, went through a 2-year probationary period, constantly being assessed through that process.
Did you have the folders back then? Did you still have to complete the folders? Or how was it done back then? Did you have mentors?
There was no such thing as mentors. In them days, I wanted to tour mentors, I may add, but again, that's something else we can perhaps talk about in terms of how the culture's changed within the fire service. 100%. It was a hard copy, very big folder. Full of I've heard you mention on your previous podcast, I know you're aware of the manuals of firemanship.
Yes.
That was how I was brought up and brought through.
You know what? I had an idea, right, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it. You know, like Matthew Shaw's first book, I've got several copies of that. Most people have probably never read it, and some of it is a bit hard to read. But I was thinking of just doing a read of chapters of it. 20 minutes, do you know what I mean? 20-minute read on the podcast. Yeah. So that, because most people were never going to read it. They're probably going to get a copy, and they're probably never going to read it. But if they could just listen to it, some of it we still use now. And this is a very, very old document from somebody that was from a massive military background. But that's what effectively started all the fire service, all the drill by numbers, all of that. It's all in there.
Am I right in thinking it's over 100 years old?
I think it is. Yeah. I wasn't going to punt for a number because I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you're right.
I think it is. Just come back to the point you're making. Some things are like music and fashion, depending on who you are, are timeless. And there are some fundamental, basic skills in there which stand proud and stand strong today. Just to open up the other point that you made about the generation and the latest generation, and their I won't say lack of practical skills, because again, it's not their fault. This is the IT generation coming through at an incredible steep curve, and those practical skills, through no fault of their own, are being fundamentally left behind. And within the job that we do, both in the fire and rescue services that we both work for and the UK ISO, those basic fundamental skills, along with the discipline that went with them, are still a pivotal part of what we do. And I think there's a huge gap there.
That's what I'm saying, like why training school needs to get longer. Because I think, we do tool, you use SAL1, it's tool fan. Do you know what I mean? So I think when you enter the fire service, you knock some lines in week 1, and then your hose running. Probably even maybe after ladders, certainly before RTC, you should just do like literally tool fam. How to get batteries in and out, how to, what is a socket set? What is a monkey wrench? What are these things? Because 20-year firefighters are going to turn to you and ask you for these things and expect you, even silly things. Like I do drills on my station where it's things like take that locker door off.
Yes.
Not necessarily someone's locker door in case you want to get back on, but like we've got lots of scrap and stuff about take a locker door off. Go out to one of the scrap cars. Oh, we're going to do some RTC, more sort of, but not really. All I want you to do is take that door off, but you just have to use a toolbox. I don't care if it takes you half an hour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that manual dexterity, all of these things, just how to use a tool. Not because they're stupid. It's not their fault. They've never used it, and if you haven't got that understanding and empathy with them, they will run face first into an ignorant firefighter who will just think they're stupid or think they don't care because they're just speaking from their own bias of like, how do you not know what that is? And it's a fair point.
just to open up what you're saying there about the ignorant firefighter, there may be individuals within the fire and rescue service, perhaps not so much in the UK, so perhaps I'm being a bit unfair here, who may unwittingly give a younger member of the fire and rescue service A, the wrong information, or B, no information at all. We have addressed this in part in the UK ISAR service that I work with, and what we will do is put them on, you mentioned manual dexterity and practical ability through a 2-year probationary period, just touching on little pocket drills, like you said there. And it's because they've not been exposed to these practical skills. What can make it even more exasperated is that when they are exposed to the environment that we work in and the practical skills that they are expected to know, their confidence can be affected, and that can make the whole thing much, much worse. So it's something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed quite quickly.
Because when you ask them, like, the time they're going to need to use it might be when they're trying to gain access into somewhere. Like they're trying to gain access. Like I have one where there was a member of the public stuck in a disabled toilet, and we weren't necessarily going to lock snap a kit because it was just a public toilet door. It's a very simple thing. Again, I say that with respect, but I tasked a firefighter who hadn't been in long and said, "Look, go and do that. So and so is going to come with you." And what usually happens in those scenarios is that everyone then bundles up behind them because they've got whatever, they've got spine board stretcher kit, they've got all the trauma bags and everything. And there's 4 experienced firefighters stood around this firefighter going, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is wrong with you? And you're like, whoa. But if that's why we need to do it in training, because those environments, when they have that confidence knocked, then it's like a self-perpetuating negative cycle where they're like, God, I can't do this. God, everyone's looking at me. God, I think I'm rubbish. And then they're going to fumble next time.
Absolutely. And do you know what? It's not just particularly this generation. You mentioned that I joined in 1992. And when I joined in 92, don't think for 1 minute. I mean, we had the seasoned firefighters who knew other skills that were relevant to the time. And I was in exactly that same situation. And it's quite interesting. We touched on 2 occasions now in the last couple of minutes. We talked about the firefighter who's not particularly helpful to the younger firefighters. And that resonates with me. That resonates with me. And I always remember the firefighters who weren't prepared to help me. But more importantly, I remember the firefighters who were there to help me, and I carry that. I carry that with me through to today. And when I see the younger generation of the fire and rescue service and UK ISAR, I will always try to help them in every way I can, because I know what it's like to be in their position.
A quick reminder for all of our listeners of our monthly giveaway. Now, as part of our partnership with Hikes, Rosenbauer and Tallyman, we give away that little bit extra to our podcast listeners every single month. You can get 2 personalized BA tallies. These are hardware and they've got your own name on them, they've got your own service number on them, and they have the podcast logo on the back. And then for the juicy stuff, Hikes give away a pair of their incredible footwear. And some of the stuff is pretty expensive stuff, to be honest with you. We try and switch in and change it every month. We are guided by the gods of Hikes to make sure we are giving you exactly what you need for that time of year. So it might be boots, it might be trainers, and then once every quarter our good friends over at Rosenbauer are giving away their Boros B5 Firefighting boots as well. So to be in with a chance to win, jump over to our social media platforms or YouTube, where you need to tag a member of the emergency services in the post, be following our page, and you will be in with a chance to win at the end of every single month. Back to the show.
So when you did first join your first watch, we spoke a little bit about watch culture, and this is kind of the thing that gravitates me towards ISAR, because I think ISAR is full of those optimists and the diehards, the passionates, who can sometimes, not always, but can sometimes feel, I know, I'm just speaking for myself, I've sometimes felt a bit weird or a bit alone on a watch or on a station on certain places. And there'll be people I'm sure can relate to this who feel like, someone's had a bad experience with something, they've had a disciplinary or they've got missed a promotion, and that mood can shift on a watch very much. And that's why I think when I come to things like this, it's really refreshing. But to bring us back, what was watch culture like when you joined, early 90s? What was it like back then?
It promoted institutionalism and peer pressure.
Wow.
We've come such a long way. Not always for the better good, but there's been a lot of good things that have changed. So,
Pendulum Swift Far, I'm hoping it's going to recalibrate somewhere back to the middle, and the middle will be wherever we decide to be.
That's massively, massively important. But that's a snapshot of everything in culture and in life, that we recognise a problem and we overcompensate
Scared to death of repeating the problem.
It's like going into
Overcompensate.
a skid or something like that. We overcompensate, but what actually happens? What actually, we go too far, and it's all about just coming back and finding that middle ground. What was like in 1992? It could be quite lonely actually, especially when you were the new probationary firefighter. And you touched on that firefighter who had 4 other firefighters stood behind him, bundling him into a room. You're always made to do everything. You're expected to do certain tasks, some fair, some, and that's an interesting one actually. And when we talk about this overswing of the pendulum, there's a great example here, because do I think discipline has its place? Yes, I do, but it really does have to have its place at the right time. And it needs to be presented in the right way. Do I think we've gone too far in terms of losing that lack of discipline? I really do. I really do. And we could start to open up this conversation about bullying with a watch. Was it stereotypical when I joined the service? Well, actually, yes, it was. But I can't help thinking, with the greatest respect, I'm choosing my words and I'm thinking very, very carefully about this. Have we now gone too far the other way?
I think so.
I think we have. And it's not necessarily to the benefit of the affected individual. It can actually almost be detrimental when it's deemed that something has happened to an individual, and this weight of dare I say HR or whatever, whichever representative body you want to identify falls in behind unsaid individual. Well, I believe on occasions that can actually make a situation worse. So let's regress that balance. Let's get that pendulum nice and neutral. And let's get it right.
It's a bit like, I'm sitting in front of me now, we've got a little audio wave of hearing our voice speak, and sometimes I think of things like that where every now and again you'll get a big spike, something will happen, and the HR can sometimes appear, and I apologise, we haven't had anybody from HR on the podcast yet, I'd love to have one. It's like they come down heavy and try and suppress until nothing's happening. And if you over-sterilise an environment, like our body needs germs to live. So if you get an infection, you wouldn't want to kill all of the bacteria in your body, because if you killed all the bacteria, you die.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And there's one of those.
It's a great analogy, isn't it?
The best watches are full of, and I'm going to say this with love and passion, they're full of quirky weirdos who just need a strong leader, man or woman. You know what I mean? They need a strong leader to not keep them on a rein, but to help harness and funnel that passion. Because if you try and suppress that individual and put them in a box and sterilise them, you'll kill everything about them.
You really will, and
they'll probably leave.
They probably will. To be fair,
it'd be such a loss.
It really, really will. And your first question, Pete, we talked about or I led into the character of a firefighter, and it's that drive, and it's that passion, and it's that want. I repeat myself, that wanting to help people. It's fundamental in all these misfits and eccentrics and second chances that all come together for the right reason, and that needs to be recognised and harnessed and driven forward in the right way, and not suppressed, as you just made the analogy with HR, which you have.
100%. I think we're trying to sometimes make our, like, we'll look at an environment, I don't know, like an administration business, I don't know, insurance company, I don't know, any old company, and we think that they've got lots of great morals and values and all that sort of stuff, but they don't necessarily, and they do a very difficult job, I couldn't do their job, but they don't do a job that is weird. Like there's lots of great weirdos in the fire service because we do a weird job. You're asking us to consciously put ourselves into positions that our survival instinct should be sending us in the other direction. So you want to have someone that isn't, in speech marks, normal, because a normal person wouldn't do this stuff.
Let's take that back. Let's take this back to what we both spoke about in our education. We did okay, but we weren't particularly settled. No. And the reason for that was problem solvers, but we have that expansive mindset. And what that expansive mindset, it perhaps didn't lend itself to the institution that was the education system at the time. But what it does lend itself to the situations that you've just alluded to, where we're taken out of the ordinary, we're dealing with problem solving, and that expansive mindset holds us in good stead to deal with those sort of incidents that we attend.
100%. I think, like you said, a lot of education systems they're built to feed
a stereotype.
A stereotype, yeah. The industry, they're built to feed industry and corporations, which are great, and we need them, but they're not the sort of people that are going to fit in here all the time. I wanted to move on to when you first joined. How far into your career did you learn about ISAR? What sort of level were you? Were you still a firefighter when you came in?
I was. It was in 1998, and
You've been in 6 years. Yeah.
I've been in 6 years at the time, but there was a catalyst to this, and the catalyst to this was I worked with a couple of guys, shifted watches, and I worked with a couple of guys who'd actually deployed to the first ever Uxfight as was. It's had many evolutions. It's been Uxfight, it's been Uxar, UK ISAR as we know it today. It's gone through quite a lot of evolutions. And there had been a call, I think it was 1988, 1989, for a earthquake in the Ukraine. Okay. And the Ukraine government at that particular time sent out an aid of assistance to any responding countries. And this formulated the birth of UK ISAR as we know it today, and it was very, very simply, certainly within the fire and rescue service that I work, it was put out on a teleprinter message. If anybody is available to respond to this, it was as simplistic as that. Wow. No skill base above a firefighter as we knew it in that particular time to respond and be at. I'm going to give my service
responsible
away.
Location.
That's a responsible location for this particular time, and it was as simple as that. And it was fascinating.
Just rock up with your kit.
It was as simplistic as that, Peter, and it was fascinating.
Did that go out nationwide, did it? Or was it certain services?
It certainly went into my service, and my service, I do know, were a predominant player in the early evolution of UK ISAR, so I couldn't actually categorically tell you if it went out UK-wide. Certainly went out to my service, and it was as simplistic as that. And the guys who responded, I was fortunate to work with in those later years when I shifted watches, and they taught me about Uxfight as was, and they told me about the whole process, about they turned up at the airport, and we literally had shovels and blankets and a bit of food, and off they went on a plane, and it was absolutely terrifying in some respect. It was fascinating and terrifying and wonderful all at the same time, because they gave me a snapshot, they gave me an insight as to what they'd done. When they'd arrived in this country, there was the infrastructure had completely collapsed. There's no electricity, no gas, no water. These people were absolutely desperate, and they told me about the work that they did. And I don't think it was a fantastic experience from start to finish. These guys, because of the lack of training through no fault of their own, and the climate in the Ukraine at that particular time, fundamentally had to keep themselves alive through the period of time that they applied for. Yeah. And when they came back, there was a working group formed, certainly within the service that I worked for. And from that, certainly within the fire rescue service, the shire that I worked for, Uxfight was born. And it was only in later years that the whole, which I'm sure we'll talk about, the whole model nationally started to come together. I'm digressing. I'm moving away from the question you've asked me.
No, not at all.
The two guys who actually deployed, they were the team leaders. They became my team leaders within UK ISAR.
And were they firefighters at the time? Or were they crew?
One was a firefighter and one was a station officer.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to go off tack a little bit. I'm sure you know this, Peter, that this fantastic job that we work in, and I talked about remembering the people that don't help us and the people that certainly do help us, and these two guys were absolute role models to me, and they encouraged me. And it was a really easy migration to move from the fire service to just moving to UK ISAR from that point, because for me it was a natural extension of what I was doing anyway, but on a much greater scale. Yeah. And that's how I came into it. If you want to say fortunate enough, I've been around for quite a number of time now, quite a number of years now, deployed to 4 times.
Have you really?
4 times with UK ISAR.
Where have you deployed?
So the first one was India.
India
in the Gujarat region in 2001.
What was that for?
Earthquake.
Okay.
Earthquake deployment. The second one was in a place called Boudurmas, which is in Algeria. That was in 2003. Again, that was an earthquake deployment. Wow. And then in 2005, obviously the world was obviously very unsettled that particular time. Yeah. In 2005, we deployed to Islamabad and did a lot of work up in Muzaffarabad. Again, that was an earthquake deployment. And people, it's really, I always get the question. Perhaps you're going to lead on to it. Why would you want to do something like that? And it's it's an incredible experience, Peter. It's incredible in many, many, many ways. It's so multifaceted. But fundamentally, when people say, why on earth would you want to do that? Yes, it's fantastic to work with like-minded people like yourself coming through now. The new generation that's coming through. And again, I will just pick up on that because I don't think we actually finished answering that question earlier on. It's seeing human nature and humanity at its absolute best while it's dealing with nature at its absolute worst. But it takes nature to present that situation, to see that and be able to witness it. So that's quite a broad, large statement to make. Yeah. I'm talking about things like people we're deploying to, I'll give you an example, Muzaffarabad in 2005. These people are on their knees, the whole infrastructure has collapsed. We turn up, yes, we're doing what we can, but you can only do so much. And you realise this when you deploy. Again, I'm going to tap, but I will bring it back again in a minute.
No, please.
A lot of the time you feel very helpless because visually, and all your senses go into visual overload. And it's practically impossible to absorb what you're witnessing in front of you, especially when your fellow human, your fellow people are being affected by this. However, I'll bring it back again. Those people you generally find are the most generous, wonderful people. We're there fundamentally to help them. Yeah. Yet they are the ones that are bringing us food. They are the ones that are bringing us water. They're the ones that are bringing us transport. And it's absolutely wonderful to see human kindness and humanity working at that particular level.
Yeah, when you strip everything away, because I think even before something like an earthquake, in some of the areas you described there, their version of reality would be very different from somebody living in a Western world anyway. So where you come from to where they go there, and we still have an element of, not an element, we still have a great deal of humanity in places like the UK, but we've got there's a lot of noise in our life. There's a lot of technology.
There's a lot of first world problems.
A lot of first world problems.
And I'll just come in there because that's what I was going to lead into. So when you witness something like that and you experience this, and it is a magnificent experience in a horrendous situation, but when that actually happens, what it allows you to do, it comes back into our Western world and it gives you a reset. And by crikey, you appreciate your family more, you appreciate spending time with the kids, you prioritise more.
Have you ever struggled at all, and this is a close question, let me ask it again, in what ways does it change your ability to connect with those first world problems? You know, when you come back from something like that and you've been so humbled and you've been so like, oh my God, and then you come back and a friend or a family member or a colleague feels as though they are struggling with a very first world problem. You know, their Wi-Fi doesn't work. You know, I don't know, their car insurance. Someone's just scratched their new MX-5. I don't flip it down. Do you know what I mean? And
it's an easy.
Or even your family. You know, your partner may do a different job, perhaps, and they're like, Janice ate my sandwich at work today. I hate her. You can't believe the terrible day I've had. Yeah. How do you still be able to talk to people like that and not go yourself? You know,
it is quite an easy one to answer, Peter, because I've experienced it and sort of lived with it on a number of occasions. The answer is the monotony of being exposed to it over a period of time.
Okay.
You do reset to those first world problems and that westernized world that we live in.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes the experience that you have, although it never goes away, you do compartmentalize it, but because you're being exposed constantly 24/7 to, okay, we're back in this western world, you do unfortunately reboot and become acclimatized to it once more.
It's such a swing though.
It's a huge
swing. It's such a different mental shift.
It's a huge swing.
So, I mean, we spoke about three things. We spoke about India there. Which one of those really, I mean, you don't have to necessarily pick one, but when you arrive on the ground, because they were different periods of time, they're maybe 3-4 years apart, we're talking there, what steps was UK ISAR taking? What was it like the first time you deployed versus how you would see a deployment? For example, we prep for a deployment now, and there's a bajillion logistical differences and safety and security preps and blah 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 blah.
It's a great question.
What was it like back then? When you went to India, what was it like?
Much different. I'll say India. I'll say India, Algeria. Okay, so I'll sort of give it to you in a snapshot. You work with me. You work with me now. You're aware of what the UK ISAR model's like. So what do we have? We have a number of fire and rescue services all working together. The communication system is fantastic. From Hampshire, we have the booth, the base of operations. Mm-hmm. So we know now when we're going to deploy.
Did they have a booth back then?
This is the thing. This is what I'm leading. This is what I'm leading into. We have the logistics unit from London, don't we? So we have a huge cache, colossal, which means you've been working with today, strangely enough.
Yeah, Dom's amazing. That dude's got some serious knowledge. He knows everything about every single thing. He literally shouted over to me today. He's like, "What's that in that box?" I'm like, "It's a hammer drill." It's like, I'm not going to get it. I was like, "No, it's a TT." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I said." But he knows everything. That brings
me nicely into what I was going to say, and I was just going to add weight to the statement there, because we've got specialists. Yeah. We've got specialists. We've got the command and control unit from the West Midlands. Yeah. So what I'm getting at, Pete, there is it's a huge animal in terms of what it can offer now in terms of everything really. Let's take it back now to India. Let's take it back to Algeria. There was none of that, and that's not being disrespectful in any way to the guys that deployed at that particular time. This is completely wrong, but I can remember just having my little personal tent. Now, I know you've worked with me, Peter, so we know about the base of operations. You're giving your own personalised tent, and within the base of operations, we have a welfare tent, do we not? We have a command and control.
We have like 60 personal tents, and then there's like 5 or 6 large canvas tents, and your logs, and your changing, and your command and control, and then your kitchens, massive lighting, and security, and dog units. Oh my God,
it's almost a small town.
Yes,
it's almost the establishment. It's a mobile small town, if you will. Let's go back now to the Indias and the Algerians. I had a little tent. It was just from Lancashire.
Yeah.
And within it, I had all my personal gear, all my work boots, everything within one tent.
Wow.
The teams worked in isolation. Yeah. There was none of the communication systems, which you'll be well aware of now.
Not as aware as you, but I'm getting there. But
you are getting there. So you'll have a broad spectrum of understanding then, won't you? None of that existed.
We were talking like 4 phases of primary, secondaries, backups, all this sort of stuff.
That's right. We have a sequential method of search and rescue, which works extremely well. Back in this particular time, to 2001 to 2003, none of that existed. You set up base where you thought the most damage had occurred, and you simply waited for information from the locals to come to you, and they would then take you to where they believed rescues needed to be carried out. It was as simplistic as that.
What, did you take any kit with you at all? Did you take any back then we were still on, whole matros and stuff. Did you have whole matros in 2000? When did I join? I joined in 2007, so I wouldn't know. Yeah, when did whole matro come out? Because that was a lot of the pneumatic capabilities that made it. But you wouldn't have been transporting any of that then, would you?
None of that went. It was spades. It was shovels. It was very
Hammers and bolsters.
It was hand tools. Yeah. It was really Flintstones. It was right back there. It was right back there to Flintstones. There was nothing like the equipment that me and you work on, because me and you work on the search cameras, don't we? Yeah. We work on the acoustic listening devices, don't we?
What was it like searching for people back then? Was it just reports?
It was just reports. We did have dogs. We did have the canines, and you know yourself again. It's absolutely invaluable. So, and that's something that's historical. We talked about the manuals of firemanship, something you can take right back in time that are transferable, and it's just as valuable today. The canines we had back in the day are just as valuable as the canines we use today. But just to answer your question there, it would simply be a case of coming upon a collapsed building, seeing that the locals were working on it, and joining in. The medical skills were not there. We were just in essence an extra pair of hands, a well-meaning, goodwill extra pair of hands. So to see it evolve and have that opportunity to watch it evolved into this great big, fantastic search and rescue beast that it is today, and this gives me an opportunity to finish the question you asked me about Germany, because I need to get this one in. In 2016, UK ISAR were assessed as the number one search and rescue team in the world.
Boom.
And this is what me and you, certainly you, I'm a very big guy.
I have a responsibility, yeah.
Yes, and I've heard you say on your podcast many times that, if it was wrong in the day, that's fair enough, but don't mess it up in 2023 when we do go on the IR.
I always think of it the same as kids, like the excuses that you have about your parents have an expiration date. Do you know what I mean? Usually when you're big enough to put your hand behind the wheel of a car, the responsibility lies with you. And the same with us, once you're a competent firefighter, the responsibility lies with you as to what the nature of your fire service career is.
Yes.
What is the backing track? What is the tempo of your career? How are you? We all say, leave it better than I found it. Well, that's your responsibility now.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean? And especially now, more so than ever, this wave of transition, the changing of the guard in UK Fire and Rescue Service is so... We have got to grab hold of that. And that's why the podcast is so important to me, because I want to drain the entire bucket of knowledge out of as many incredible people like yourself and capture it in as fumbly way as I possibly can to make sure that we don't miss a drip.
It's a great...
And I know we're going to miss lots of drips. And I go to sleep worrying about it.
You might miss
Paul Grimwood is not very well at the minute. I want to speak to him before he passes. This is an incredible individual, and there is many of which... I digressed, sorry.
It's okay.
Germany.
Pete, you might, and my very best to Paul as well. Pete, you might miss the drips. You're going to get the buckets, and the reason for that is you use the word transition. It's a great way to explain where UK ISR is at this moment in time. We have the young bucks coming through, but the seasoned campaigners, if you like, we're still here. You talked about drain that knowledge. We're going to give it willingly, and it's so important to likes of myself, and I know that you've worked closely with Russ Gordon as well.
Yes.
He's a great passion, a great leader, a great driving force, and he will take us through, but he will do it willingly with the likes of myself and the other guys who have been around for a number of years to give you guys that information so that you can drive it forward. And
There's people I worry about though, like, and I don't know how long these people have got left. It might be trying to harshly say about their age here, but you've got your Sean's, your Paul Courtney's, your Kelly, your Malcolm Russell.
Yeah.
Incredible. Oh my God, every time I sit in a presentation with him, I'm just like fixated.
Yeah, it's
I need to corner him.
It's amazing,
and have a
isn't
conversation.
It really
He's
is.
like, because he's been in the military, he was a Marine, I think. He's obviously a trained doctor. He's done the Everest. Like, oh my God.
Fantastic.
And he's such a nice guy. He's such an unassuming.
Quite humble.
Very.
But when you're as well rounded,
He doesn't feel the need to prove his knowledge. When you sit down with him, like, you could get stuff wrong, and he's not the sort to go, excuse me, I don't think you're right there. Where do you think you've got that knowledge? You would never, he's not that, he's just...
Do you not think...
He would happily let you get it, not like, watch you get it wrong, but
I
like...
know.
And if you asked him, he would give it to you in spades. I find him fascinating.
Do you not think the majority of people, the most well-rounded, multifaceted individuals like that, are also the most humble people?
Yeah.
Because they can afford the humility, because they've done it all anyway, haven't they?
No, I'm just like, that guy is incredible. But yeah, I'm so eager to capture so much of that, and we're in that beautiful position. We've gone off on such a tangent there. We were in Germany. We were in Germany.
We were in Germany.
We were in Germany. We're referencing back from India and those initial deployments.
Yeah.
So Germany, we'd reached that aspect of being
the pinnacle,
of where UK ISR was at that point in time.
Yeah.
So you deployed with just a handheld kit and stuff like that. When did that transition start to take place that led you to be the best search and rescue service in the world?
There was a pivotal time, and that was 9/11.
9/11. Wow, yes.
New Dimension.
New Dimension.
Very, very simplistic. Very simple to answer that question, Peter. With the terrible events of 9/11, the UK government turned around and says, "Do you know what? We need to do something here," and that's formulated the introduction of.
And you were like, "We're already doing it. Come help."
Yes.
Not that they weren't helping, but like you were like, "I'm glad you're catching up. We've been doing this for ages."
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it was the introduction of the urban search and rescue units within the United Kingdom to offset the potential terrorist threats at that particular time. So
Which is still part of our world today. That's still a prevalent thing, isn't it? It's so crucial to have that because
it really is. We could open
those terror attacks are still possible.
They are still. We could open that discussion up, because it's quite interesting because that type of terrorist attack is not so much considered to be the major risk now as the marauding terrorist, but just fundamentally, with the introduction of urban search and rescue, because it's in line with the international search and rescue team, the skills were transferable, which we touched on at the early part of this discussion.
So did the support immediately come behind? What was it? Had it become UXAR by then, or did everyone go USAR first? If you know what I mean, did all the services
It happened.
get asked to do USAR,
Yes,
and then USAR became ISAR? What happened?
it ran in parallel. So you had the existing UK ISAR as it was, the previous evolution of it, running at a nice steady pace.
Did that have funding? How was that?
I was just about to say,
Sorry.
incredibly poorly funded, run by well-meaning volunteers. And do you know what? With the introduction of early urban search and rescue, we piggybacked a lot of those skills.
100%.
So so a lot of the funding that came with the urban search and rescue, we were able to piggyback. And with that piggyback system and the introduction of the skills and the migration of those great search and rescue skills from the national urban search and rescue teams migrated across the international search and rescue team, then the whole thing, there was this explosion with ISAR because of that skills and that migration of skills.
Yeah.
And as it started to grow, there was the introduction of the sector medics. Well, okay, let's think about communications. All right, let's think about logistics, to the beast that we have today. I mean, you're lucky enough to work with him.
Mate, absolutely, so lucky. So when do you, and if you can't remember, it's absolutely fine.
It's okay.
When did it become an entity that got funded in its own right? As in, because even now, ISAR lives in a weird, I'm not even sure where ISAR sits, I probably should know. Because obviously all of its individuals are provided, not all, sorry, we have some wonderful initiatives to have that just work for UKISAR itself, but the vast majority of the operational individuals are effectively released from their services. But now it's very much well established. It's very, very well positioned. The government recognise the value that it adds, and it's been to some incredible things. So you mentioned those first three. What was the fourth?
The fourth one was actually the wildfires last year.
Oh yes, you went to Greece.
Last year went to Greece. I know you talked to one.
That's a totally different sort of thing to go to, isn't it?
It really, really is. But what an opportunity! I mean that in the best possible way for the international.
That's always. I know I have a great day at work. I'm like, what was 3 car crashes and this?
Yeah.
We never want these things to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, we know they're going to happen.
Yeah.
And I want to be the person to help when it does. So
Yes.
that makes a bad day for them a good day for us. It's
a
a weird thing to live in, isn't it? Right?
It really does. And in terms of the actual sort of deployment to Greece, it was something I never thought I'd experience. But then again, when I talked to the guys who deployed to Ukraine in the late 80s, they never expected to go to something like that.
Yeah.
And it led on to the development. And I don't doubt for 1 minute that wildfires will be a major player in terms of deployment for UK ISAR.
100%. What an incredible thing to be part of. Surreal, strange.
Very, very strange. Wonderful experience. We actually deployed with the Welsh wildfire team, and they're the UK specialists.
Yeah.
And just the opportunity to work alongside those guys and see what they do, I have an absolute admirable respect for those guys. But the amalgamation of 2 teams. We have a wildfire team, we have an international search and rescue team coming together for the first time. And I know that Russ has talked about that being a forthcoming piece of work.
It used to be.
It really does. And not only that, Peter, as well, we talk about the Bosnia floods as well, 2014, 2015. There
Yes.
We deployed to that, and that was the first time we deployed to an SRT, to a water-based deployment.
Is a very
huge.
Yeah, and I almost feel like it causes more damage than an earthquake, and I don't know. But when an earthquake, obviously all your infrastructure gets ruined and everything like that. But flooding's a weird one because people's stuff is completely lost. Earthquakes, and again, please guide me in the right way here. People search raw powers; they can sometimes reclaim things and memories and things like that. Flooding is gone.
It's gone.
Everything is gone.
It's not the first time I've been asked that Pete, and the flooding sits in line with wildfires. And to go to Greece, okay, there was loss of life. It was relatively low in comparison to an earthquake. But what about the infrastructure? What about the environment? What about the livelihoods? What about the homes? What about the villages? What about the schools? What the education systems? What about the religious institutes that were all wiped out? There was a huge area that was wiped out, and sometimes we sort of don't appreciate the damage that these things can do. And we touched on GDAX, didn't we?
Yes.
And we touched on GDAX earlier on, and that will also give you an alert to a wildfire or a flood. But incredibly, and you want to call it back first world problems again, we don't always tap in to the amount of damage that these floods and these wildfires are doing worldwide. And I don't doubt for 1 minute, I certainly know the number of wildfires and floods are increasing. We're going to be going out those doors a lot more regularly in the coming times.
For people, and perhaps for firefighters, certainly for members of the public who may struggle for a connection now, I just thought to myself, from a very simplistic firefighting perspective, I always think, maybe not so much now, certainly whenever, I'm not perfect, but whenever I'm in charge, I'm very conscious about how much water we use at jobs. Not because I'm trying to save water, because of how much water damage is done to properties. Yeah. Like if you have a fire in your back bedroom, if we can put it out, great, and then you might have a bit of smoke damage around the hallway and all that sort of stuff. If you have a good quick attack offensive firefighting, bang. If we then put thousands of gallons through your front door, your floors are sagging, your house is ruined.
Yeah.
We can do so. Water is an elusive, really damaging, and then everything rots and it stinks and it's got to be ripped down anyway.
It really has. So let's not miss the really obvious point here. What about the psychological and emotional effect of the people that are affected by it? Earthquakes tend to be the humanitarian loss to life is absolutely astronomical. But what about the people who are left behind, the floods and the wildfire and the earthquakes as well? Let's not forget the psychological damage that's done to them.
Our good friend Zoe from Humanity and Inclusion, she speaks very powerfully about things like that. She said to me, I always think about the people you can't see first, because and please correct me if I'm wrong, if your memory can recall, she said, when you go to a lot of these places, there tends to be a lot of males searching rubble piles, cracking on, doing some work. And the question in her mind is like, where are the females? Where are the children? Not as in like a sexist, blah, 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 blah. Just where are the people I can't see? Because the people who were struggling already, like people that already had physical difficulties, mental difficulties, medications, they were being cared for another person, or they were young, or they were vulnerable in some capacity. Their life was probably hard already, especially in some of these third world countries. When that then happens, all you can really see is actually the functional independent people who can climb across rubble and can... They're the top third of the population, you've got to think.
They are, and again, a great open statement, and that can bring UKISR in again, in that one of these arms that I talk about, that we're stretching out the ability to provide capability to respond, the aftercare service. So we can at least go back and we can contact these people and we can start to help and we can start to rebuild the infrastructure. We can start to give these people the training and the basic, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you like, those basic needs to start getting them stood up on their feet again. Because in previous times, through no fault of our own, we would turn up with a spade and shovels and we'd do what we could and then we'd go home and that was it. And we touched on going back to westernisation and first world problems, didn't we? Well, it's lovely to see UKISR diversifying in this way and offering this capability now. You know what, these forgotten, these invisible individuals that you talk about, we can offer that service, we can go back and help them rebuild.
Yeah, that makes me think of like the three-dimensional firefighter rather than just a firefighter that wants to go to the job.
Great analogy.
The firefighter that just wants to fight the fire or rescue the person or do the thing. Yeah. A true great firefighter and paramedic and just frontline first responder in any capacity for me is, what needs has this individual got? How can I fill these needs? The small things which really make the big difference. The humanity side of care. Yeah. You know, rescuing somebody's, without getting too wishy-washy, rescuing somebody's soul, rescuing somebody's spirit, rescuing the person. Yeah. Not just from physical danger and then be like, I'm putting you on the side of the road now, I pulled you out of the river. Off you go, you're welcome, high five. We were Tear medals. Let's jump back on our big fancy truck and go home.
That's exactly what it was. and that was of its time.
Yeah.
But we're in a different place now. Let's take it back to the fire and rescue service that we both work for. Now we go into schools, we educate at the foundation level for the kids. We have the ability to safeguard. We work in cohesion with our colleagues from the ambulance service and the police. You talk about, that's a great analogy, the three-dimensional firefighting. We're much more well-rounded, and it's lovely at the pinnacle, at the end of my career, a wonderful career, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, to see that we're in safe hands, and we're continuing to grow, we're continuing to evolve, and we're providing a much better service, and rightly so, they did when I joined. But that's the natural way of things, providing things are going the right way.
How long have you got left in your role, do you think?
October, actually.
October,
yeah.
Jesus, man,
yeah.
I didn't think it was that short. I had about 18 months in my head. October.
It's October.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's for 30. That's for 30 years, Peter.
Wow.
Surreal. And I will be leaving. It is surreal. It's really interesting, actually. I've worked with many firefighters who've retired over the years, and they always said, you know what, you'll know when it's time to go. And I will leave UKISAR and I will leave the fire and rescue service that I work for with a heavy heart, because I've enjoyed every minute. But you know what? It's you don't want to go on too long. It's like that boxer that goes on one fight too many.
Yeah.
When you know that you've sort of attained a certain professionalism, a certain commitment, a certain level, work within the team for a certain amount of time, you know within yourself.
Don't be hanging around the party when the party's over.
Don't be hanging around the party
when somebody has to go.
Over.
Dave, it's time to
it's
leave,
time to
mate.
go now.
And you're like, oh, sorry, I thought we were all still having fun. No, we're staying. But your time's finished, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's like the buzz.
You're still so young, though.
In
the grand scheme of things, you are. Mate, I saw you running on treadmill last night at 9:45 at night. You're a beast. There's not, you're not frail.
Well, there's no excuse for letting the sort of your physical and your fitness go. But that said, and you've been very kind, by the way, the organisation.
Telling the truth is what I saw, brother.
Very kind, very kind indeed. The organisation that we work in, the Fire and Rescue Service, the UKISAR, they promote you to maintain your standards, be it fitness, the way you present yourself, your skills, all that conglomerate of skills coming together right to the very end. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah. And when the curtain comes down, which it will do very, very shortly, like I said, I believe we are heavy heart, but some fantastic memories and some fantastic friends as well.
What do you think's been one of the proudest moments, looking at 30 years there? If you had to, even if you had a top three, that's fine.
I think it was certainly joining the United. Again, it's a cliche, but being part of the UKISAR team.
Yeah.
For this, I think longevity. Is my proudest moment. Really, and that's a bizarre.
That's a great answer.
It's a great.
That is a great answer.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's
longevity.
It's answering it sideways.
Longevity. It's lateral thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Longevity is my proudest moment. To be a member of Fire and Rescue Service and UKISAR for this period of time, and to be able to give it the commitment and maintain the same drive. And it's not always an easy thing to do when you reach your later years, to maintain that drive. It's so easy to start coasting a little bit.
It's easy to get pessimistic or a little bit, when you've seen the same mistakes or a similar variation of a mistake in whether that be leadership, culture, team, whatever.
Yeah.
How have you maintained that Because people have said to me like, yeah, Pete, you'll feel differently in 5 years. And then they said, you'll feel differently in 10 years. And then they say, wait till you've done 15. And they're still saying it to me now. And I'm like, when are you going to... I'm no better or worse than anybody, but tested on my own. But I'm like, when are you going to realise that this mindset is just a choice? This is a decision. I face the same rubbish you do all day, but it's a choice of controlling the controllables. How have you stayed so optimistic, so not to say bubbly, maybe that sounds condescending, but so engaged in what you're doing? And be interested in developing yourself when you've done so much already.
You surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah.
You continue to be challenged. You take yourself out of your comfort zone. Make yourself feel uneasy about something. Go for something that's perhaps unattainable.
Yeah.
Reach for the skies. It's a simple analogy. You might just hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
It's all about that driving forward. Because for me, Peter, the alternative to lose that motivation, to lose that drive, it's not even a consideration. I've worked with individuals you've just alluded to there, and what they'll do, they'll start to coast. Yeah, you feel different, Peter. No, that's them. That's them. But unfortunately, they may have been great people, great professionals at one time, but the legacy that they leave is the last few years of their career. when they're coasting, and they let those standards drop because that's how we remember them. I don't want to be remembered like that.
So you're a member of effectively the leadership stuff that happens here within ISAR, whether you feel that or not. You certainly either formally or certainly informally mentor people like myself, like other members coming through.
It means a lot, thank you.
And you work in these leadership circles. You help set the temperature in those rooms, the way that people engage.
Yeah.
What are some of the best aspects of when leadership is done really well? Some of the leaders you've worked for, some of the things you try and encapsulate, or things you try and repeat when you are leading people on a regular basis. What do you think it looks like when it's done well?
There's a lot to unwrap there.
It's a hell of a question. Sorry,
it's a hell of a question, but it also offers me a lot. Communication.
Okay.
Every great leader is communication. The ability to build relationships. Being a leader, being a good leader, I'm not talking about myself now, I'm talking about how I would aspire to be. Being a great leader should be the easiest job in the world. It should be the gentle hand on the tiller. It should be the ability to facilitate. It should be the ability to have that overarching vision and monitor the crew and the team that you're working for. It should be simply a case of sitting back with your feet up. It can be as easy as that. If there's certain qualities you bring into play are communication, presence, a certain attitude, lead from the front. We see so many leaders who don't lead, and they sort of sit back and they're asking people to do things they can't do themselves. Never, ever, ever ask anybody to do anything you can't do yourself. If you fail, well, at least you've had a go. People will naturally respect a great leader, a great manager, and when that happens, when you're in that position, easiest job in the world.
Yeah, I love what you said there about that gentle hand on the tiller, and I always think of it like you should work twice as hard on the relationships than you do on the job, because you have days off. In the simplest thing about, like, you have annual leave, and if the thing only works when you're there because you're a firm hand on the tiller or you're a micromanager or whatever you might be, it's a false economy, because it's not going to work when you're not there, and also what you leave in your wake. The feeling. I always say the impact intended versus the impact felt. The impact intended was, well, I wanted you to feel like you know what you were doing. I wanted you to feel success. I wanted you to feel like you trusted me, so I controlled every movement you made.
Yeah.
But the impact felt was you just suffocated me. I felt scared. I was worried I was going to get it wrong all the time, and I was worried you were going to shout at me and grab hold of the tiller every time. I wasn't going to turn left, but I was just looking left. You thought I was going to turn left, and you grab hold of the tiller, and then now I'm scared to drive.
Absolutely. I know this might sound a little bit strange. I don't think it will, actually. Certainly the teams I've worked with and the people I like to think I've assisted through the careers, I want them to be better than me.
100%.
I want them to go away and be better than me, but I want them to...
You set a high bar, though.
Thank you very much. I'll come back to that in a minute. Certainly, I want them to grow and be bigger than me when they leave me, but I want them to regret leaving at the same time. Does that make sense?
Mate.
And it's very, very simplistic, Peter. All you've got to do is just part your blooming ego. That's all you need to part your ego, and a lot of it can just fall into place. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You part your ego, and all of a sudden you can see the picture very, 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 very clearly. And you touched on there about people and knowing people. People are different. Again, we talk about the misfits, the eccentrics, the second chances. But do you know what? They feel differently. They've got different personalities. And one individual who you can perhaps be a little more stern with in terms of getting your message across at the right time in the right way.
I always say treat people fairly, but don't treat them the same.
Yes.
Because they're different.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They respond differently to your behaviour.
Absolutely.
So don't say, I treat everybody the same. I hope not.
No.
Because they're all different.
You've got it
Some
wrong.
people hate it.
You've got it wrong if you're doing that. Whereas another person, it's a gentle hand round the shoulder. How are you? Is everything okay?
Absolutely.
Shall we sit down? Shall we have a little chat about it? Whereas somebody said, hey, come on you.
Yeah, I respond well to firm leaders, but I would never use that on certain people in my own team, because it would just be horrible for them. But I want somebody to say, I expect more. I don't think that was your best.
Yeah.
I expect more from you.
Yeah.
Because inside I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that was a bit shit. I need to raise my. I know that wasn't the best version of me.
Yeah.
And thank you. Hold me to that bar because I'm going to hit it.
Yeah.
But with certain people, they're hiding under the sofa, and you've got to have those soft skills to draw them out. Because they've got greatness within them. You just got to find a way to tap into it. It's a bit like a key safe, isn't it?
It really
you can have the
is,
right numbers,
yeah.
but if you put them in the wrong way, you ain't going to get in.
Yeah.
You've got to get the combination right.
That's right. And we touched earlier on, didn't we? We touched on about this multitude of different incidents that we go to. Well, do you know what? I touched on it, didn't I? Answer to you that we'll always have that person, that individual in that group who can give you that answer because they've got different skill sets, different personalities, different characters, so they can offer an answer at a different time. And
100%.
It's bringing it all together and putting those pieces together to form the jigsaw.
Yeah. We've got to go head off to a briefing. I've just realised what the time is.
Thanks. It's an absolute pleasure, Peter.
Mate, last one before we close. I just wanted to get it in there. What are the great aspects to be a great member of UK Fire and Rescue Service?
The ability to listen. And we talk about those fundamental building blocks. We've talked about manual dexterity. We've talked about practical ability. Yeah, we've talked about those migratable skills. It's the ability to be able to empathise, to sympathise, to communicate with people, because as firefighters, as member of the UK International Search and Rescue Team, we are engaging with people. No, it's no point, because fundamentally that's what we do. Yeah. We make their day better. No, it's all right turning up in that big red truck, it's all right turning up in that airplane, but if you don't know how to engage with people, then you've lost the war.
Love it. Dave, thank you so much, man. I absolutely love that. We've got to head to a briefing. I would love to do another 4 hours, and I'm sure we'll sit down together again. Maybe in October after you've mulled everything over, and we'll see what's next.
Absolutely, I'd absolutely love the opportunity, Peter. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming back and listening to the Firefighters Podcast. This one was brought to you by William Wood Watches. William Wood Watches, as I'm sure you're already aware, are the makers of those incredibly authentic watches with a piece of firefighting history in every single one. On the 9th of June, they created 250 beautiful limited edition pieces of the bravest watch for the FDNY Foundation. They're donating 15% from every single watch to the FDNY Foundation, and it's pretty incredible to see that William Wood Watches are now in the Rockefeller Center, the FDNY Fire Zone store that's held within Rockefeller Center. On the 9th of June, they will be having one of their watches, which is going to press William Wood Watches into the history of FDNY. Johnny and the team are over there kicking ass and taking names. Be sure to join them on their journey. Head over to williamwoodwatches.com, check them out on Instagram, check them out on YouTube. You can check all of their watches right there, from the Jubilee to the Triumph to the Valium to the Bronze to the Chivalrous, and they run competitions supporting firefighters charities all over the world, including the firefighters charity in the UK. So once again, thanks for coming back to the Firefighters Podcast. Go and check out William Wood Watches. Go and check us out on YouTube. Subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on one of those platforms. Follow us, rate us. Thanks for coming back, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon right here on the Firefighters Podcast. Firefighters Podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.